Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome today's MC, Mike Broomhead.
Good afternoon. For those of you that know me, know that I am a very big supporter of the veteran community and our military. I'm happy to be with you today to celebrate the military heroes and the Veterans Medical Leadership Council. It's an honor to be here celebrating my 10th year as the MC of this event. And on behalf of the Veterans Medical Leadership Council, welcome to the 20th Annual Heroes Patriotic Luncheon. Our theme for this event is Proud to be an American. Today, our theme is important, and it's our reason for being here, to honor and commemorate the invaluable contributions of our veterans, active duty service members, and the groups who support them. We are also here to celebrate each and every one of you for your support. I'm sure many of you plan on celebrating our veterans at many of the Veterans Day parades around the Valley this weekend. And speaking of proud to be an American, I think it's fitting that today we are honored to have Major General Patrick Henry Brady as our keynote speaker. He's a Medal of Honor recipient, a retired Army Major General who spent his time in service putting the wounded ahead of himself, and we look forward to hearing from him a little bit later today, sir. Among us today are active duty service members and veterans of major conflicts since World War II, including our 2022 military honorees. Honorees, when I call your name, would you please stand or raise your hand? Starting with Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran Kayamisha Guy, who served in the U.S. Navy. Iraqi Freedom veteran Sean Stoddard, who served in the U.S. Army National Guard. Vietnam War veteran Wayne Snyder, who served in the U.S. Marine Corps. Now would be a great time to say happy birthday to all of the Marines in the room as well. Civilian veteran constituent Lee Huff with Arizona Representative Andy Biggs' office is with us as well. Lee. Korean War veteran Art Augusta, who served in the U.S. Navy. And World War II veteran Dale Glendenning, who served in the U.S. Army and celebrates his 101st birthday in May. To start our program, the national anthem will be performed by Miss April Manchester Miller, who has faithfully supported our Patriotic Luncheon for over a decade. Leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance is today's President and CEO of Tri-West Healthcare Alliance and our honorary luncheon chairman. His name is David McIntyre. And today's invocation will be provided by Luke Air Force Base Wing Chaplain, Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Boyer. Now, if you would please rise for the presentation of colors by the Luke Air Force Base Honor Guard.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I invite you to pray with me. Gracious God, today we gather to pause and remember, to remember that historic moment on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of the war to end all wars. It was the year 1918 when arms being laid down and hostilities ceasing, an armistice was signed, a commitment made to restore peace on all the earth. And we gather today to recognize and honor all the men and women who've worn our country's cherished cloth, having answered their nation's highest call, a call of service before self, to stand as a beacon of light to the world, supporting and defending our American freedoms, ideals, and the democracy that we hold so dear. We stand here today, Lord, a grateful nation, thankful for the almighty blessings that we have so richly received: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let us not for a moment take for granted the precious gifts which we've been so deeply fought for us and won for us by those sacred heroes who've gone before us and who to this day stand among us. Today we honor their sacrifice. Today we honor their service. Today we honor their commitment of putting the needs of others above themselves. And it is perhaps by divine inspiration, Lord, that our fellow countrymen gather all across this great land to celebrate our veterans in the very same month that we also gather with family, friends, and loved ones to offer our thanksgiving. For that is what we truly are, Lord: thankful, grateful. In your gracious and almighty name I pray. Aim high and amen.
All right, please be seated. Seems like a great time to thank the people from the Arizona Raptor Center. What a cool addition this year they are. At this time, we'd like to recognize all who have served and are serving our country by featuring a medley from all 6 uniformed services. We invite all active duty and veterans to stand or raise your hand when your particular service branch is represented. How cool is that? My two favorite parts of the day is listening to the Marines scream when their hymn is played and when everybody looks around the room to find someone from the Coast Guard. It never gets old. And now we've got the Space Force. So let's give them all a round of applause, them and their families. And one of the biggest honors I get to have is to ask now anybody from the greatest generation, our World War II veterans, if you're able to stand or raise your hand, please let us acknowledge your work. We have a special tribute. I'd like to invite VMLC's first Vice President and retired Army Master Sergeant David Rosenfeld to the stage as we pay special tribute to our comrades who could not be with us.
Thank you, Mike. A warrior, whether active duty, retired, National Guard, or Reserve, is someone who at some point wrote a check made payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including their life. For some, the image is not of a check, but of a credit card, with costs charged and accruing year after year from both bodily wounds and emotional distress, costs borne relentlessly by both the veteran and the family. We are going to recognize a unique class of such patriots. As you entered the hall, you may have noticed a singular table set here at the front. It is raised to direct your attention to its presence. The table is reserved to honor those who bear a special hurt, the missing who have never returned from war. Set for 6, the empty places represent those absent American men and women from each of our 5 services: the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and those missing American civilians who have served beside us. In setting the table, we acknowledge, we remember, and salute those souls missing from our celebration today. No American should ever forget these brave men and women, those who answered the call to our nation's service. Would you please pause what you're doing, stand, and remain standing to observe as the Honor Guard places at this table the 5 service covers. I would like to explain the meaning of this special table. The table itself is round to symbolize our never-ending concern for our missing men and women. A single red rose is displayed in a vase, reminding us that their loved ones and friends keep the faith, awaiting resolution. The vase is tied with the yellow ribbon, which symbolizes an everlasting hope for reunion. A slice of lemon on each plate reminds us of that bitter suffering endured by those captured and missing in a foreign land. The grains of salt represent the countless tears of the missing and their families. The Bible represents the strength gained from God through the faith that sustains those lost from our country, a country established as one nation under Him. The tablecloth is white, indicating the purity of their motives in answering the call of duty. The chairs are empty. Our people are not with us. Each glass is inverted. They cannot be with us today. please take a moment as they're exiting to think of our POWs and our MIAs with just a silent prayer. Thank you. And if you would take a moment and help me thank the Luke Honor Guard for this tremendous job. Thank you, Mike.
Please be seated. At this time, I'd like to recognize all of our dignitaries that are in attendance today, and we'd like you to hold your applause till the end because some of them are elected politicians and we don't want you booing. So if you'll hold your applause till the end, please. Joke never gets old. I've done it for 10 years. It never gets old. First is Martin Javier, president of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community. Major General Kerry Muhlenbeck, Arizona National Guard Adjutant General. Major General Mick McGuire, Arizona National Guard retired former Adjutant General. Jessica Martin, Phoenix VA Social Work Acting Chief. Deputy Director John Scott, Arizona Department of Veterans Services. Represented Senator Kirsten Sinema's office, Kelly Mills, Director of Military and Veteran Outreach. Bill Gates, Chairman of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. Scott Summers, Mesa City Council Member-elect, U.S. Air Force veteran. And Kevin Thompson, Mesa City Council Member, U.S. Air Force veteran. And a special thank you to all of you and a round of applause for our dignitaries, please. I'd like to take a moment to introduce some very special guests who are here with us today, starting with the Gold Star mothers and wives whose loved ones have paid the ultimate price to provide us with the freedom that we enjoy today. We thank you all for your sacrifice and for being with us. And a group of amazing women who made history in World War II when they went above and beyond to serve and protect the country that we love. Here with us today, we have members of the American Rosie the Riveter Association. We are so pleased you're here. At this time, I'd like to invite retired Army Lieutenant Colonel and President of the Veterans Medical Leadership Council, Tom Eiseminger, to the stage.
Wow. 700 proud Americans. What a showing. Thanks, Mike. I'd like to personally thank you for being our Master of Ceremonies for the 10th year in a row. And it's wonderful to have a real patriot like you leading us in this superb event. You know, this POW MIA table always chokes me up. I think we've got a few former POWs with us today. If you're in the room, would you stand up and be recognized, please? I know I saw one name on the list. How many have attended one of our luncheons before? Maybe I should phrase that differently. How many of this is your first time to a luncheon, VMLC luncheon? Well, welcome. We're proud to have you here. In the next few minutes, what I'd like to do is to thank some of the dedicated people that have made this possible, tell you a little bit about the Veterans Medical Leadership Council and what we do, and finally recognize two great organizations that support our veterans. And if you would, please hold your applause. First, I'd like to thank our VMLC ambassadors for their faithful and solid support. These special people continue to be instrumental in spreading the word about helping our veterans. Denise Britton, Rick Erickson, Pam and Gary Fitzgerald, Nancy Keene, Patsy Lugo, Karen and Denny McComb, Betty McRae, Molly Stockley, and Elizabeth Wistoff. Next, I'd like to thank our luncheon committee that put this event together, which was ably led by Chairman George Bliss, for their hard work and all the volunteers that were involved in putting this together. including volunteers that we had from Credit Union West and USAA that helped make this possible. Last but not least, I'd like to thank our VMLC council members and the support of Gordon C. James Public Relations, who worked behind the scenes for 20 years making sure this is a world-class event. Based on the number of you here, it's clear to me that their efforts have been successful and continue to be successful. So I'd appreciate if everyone I just mentioned could stand up and be recognized. Now I want to tell you a little bit about VMLC programs, and what I'd like to do is tell you, I'm a fisherman. I'm going to tell you a fishing story. There's two fishermen on the side of the river. They're throwing their line in the water and fishing, and a little kid comes floating down the river. One fisherman jumps in and fishes that child out. Next thing you know, another little child comes bobbing down the river, and the second fisherman has to jump in and fish him out. By the time that happens, you have a third child coming down the river, bobbing and trying to stay afloat. And the second fisherman jumps in, and the first fisherman starts running upstream. And the other fisherman says, "Where are you going?" He says, "I'm going to catch that SOB that's throwing these kids in the water." Now that's funny, but that's what we're trying to do. We're working to prevent those veterans from floating down the river and getting lost. So I'll tell you about some of our programs. The first program is called the Returning Warrior Fund. And what we do is we work in hand with social workers at the VA, and they identify veterans that are on the verge. And what I say on the verge, I say on the verge of becoming homeless, on the verge of losing their job, on the verge of losing their family, and in extreme cases, on the verge of suicide. The social workers identify someone that has a need, and the VMLC steps in with financial assistance to keep them out of trouble. And it's not veterans that are lazy and found themselves in the situation. I'm going to give you an example. We had one case this past year where a veteran's wife had cancer. The veteran left their job so they could take care of their wife and spent their entire life savings on mortgages and living expenses while he was taking care of his wife. Unfortunately, his wife passed away, and he found himself financially destitute. And he started looking for a job, and of course the job market at that time wasn't very good for what his skill set was. And so we helped and pitched in and paid his mortgage for him until he found the job, and now he wasn't one of those veterans that floated past the fishermen. We stopped him upstream. Now, this past year, we expanded the program from the Phoenix VA Medical Center to also the Prescott VA Medical Center. And I'll share with you that my vision is to eventually raise enough funds to extend this to Tucson so we can help every veteran in the state. We've raised over $4 million for this program alone. And in the last year, we spent about $450,000 to help veterans that were on the verge. Now, we've got a couple of those social workers with us today that we work hand in glove with. If you would stand up and be recognized. I can't see. Now, there's two other programs that VMLC does. One of them started during COVID when we realized that our veteran brothers and sisters on the Navajo Nation were struggling disproportionately. When you walked in, you might have seen solar refrigerator in the lobby. Last year, through help with USAA, we put in 15 solar refrigerators for Navajo veterans that don't have electricity or running water and have insulin-dependent diabetes. Now again, USAA has stepped up a little bit and has given us enough funds. We think we're going to do between 50 and 75 units this year. So along with the Navajo, to date, we've provided 1,500 300-gallon water totes that have been individually distributed to homesteads. Prior to this, they were living off 5-gallon water cans, and no wonder the COVID rates were a little bit higher. So we're trying to give them sustainable water solutions so they can last a week with running water. And MD helicopters, I think Chris Geron is here. In the last year, they did 52 helicopter missions full of PPE that we flew from Mesa to the Navajo Nation to help those that were afflicted with COVID. So thank you. One of our most recent programs that we just started last year was with a partnership with Boulder Crest in Sonoyta, Arizona. They do post-traumatic growth training. We had our first class that we sponsored last year, and we just completed a class 2 weeks ago. Now that Boulder Crest, those two Boulder Crest groups are with us. Would you please raise your hands and be recognized? I know you're here. They're over here in the corner. So what the vision is here is we're trying to create a cadre of graduates of this program throughout the state of Arizona so that when they're out with their battle buddies, they can say, I know what you need. So we're gonna help spread that program so that we've got veterans that don't have to jump in the water to save somebody. So welcome. And thank you to Executive Director Joe Wood from Sonoyta and Boulder Crest, who's with us today. Now I'd like to take a moment to recognize two special Vietnam-era Army Aviation Medal of Honor recipients that are with us today. Fred Ferguson was going to be with us, but he just didn't make it. But there are only 3 living Army Aviation pilots that have the Medal of Honor. We have 2 of them. So we have Bruce Crandall, who flew into the Idrang Valley under, and this is from his Medal of Honor citation, relentless enemy fire. He did so to resupply his fellow soldiers and evacuate the wounded, instilling the will and spirit to continue in other pilots and greatly enhance morale in the ground forces. His exploits were documented in the Mel Gibson movie, We Were Soldiers Once. We have and of course, with the theme of Proud to be an American, what better person than Patrick Henry Brady, our keynote speaker and a dust-off pilot who continued his evacuation missions despite having multiple helicopters shot out from underneath him. Never forgetting the lessons instilled by Major Charles Kelly, quote, to fly without hesitation anytime, anywhere. General Brady evacuated more than 5,000 wounded during his 2 tours in South Vietnam. Now, before we hear from Joel Bartholomew, our presenting sponsor, I'd like to introduce, is Cora Phillips here? We were going to have the president-elect from the Navajo Nation here, who was just elected. Unfortunately, he had an illness in his family and couldn't make it. I will say now we're very fortunate to have the support of Global Med, who once again serves as our presenting sponsor for the 4th consecutive year. Global Med's virtual health platform is used worldwide from the Department of Veteran Affairs to rural hospitals and villages in Africa. And before I welcome the founder and CEO of Scottsdale-based Global Med to the stage, we'd like to highlight their work in a brief video.
As a veteran-owned and operated business, Global Med is incredibly proud that our virtual healthcare solutions are used to serve our nation's military veterans, providing greater access to care and quicker treatment using our products in VA facilities nationwide.
As a veteran himself, Joel watched his aging veteran father struggle to get the health care he desperately needed in an inefficient system that continually transferred and delayed care. From patients being shuffled between specialists, patient data siloed in transit, to legacy systems that don't integrate well, to scheduling issues that can have a patient waiting for months to get the treatment they need. Global Med's offerings solve the inefficiencies that limit patients' access to care and reduces the disparity of care. Global Med's wide array of virtual care technologies comes in a variety of configurations, making us one of the industry leaders in customizable and scalable virtual health solutions. Our software platform is the central hub that powers multimodal clinical stations, mobile all-in-one carts, a self-contained wall-mounted unit, ultra-portable backpack solutions, and even a ruggedized military-grade transportable unit for evidence-based care in any environment you can think of. All of this began as the dream of Global Med founder and CEO, Joel Bartholomew. He knew that technology could be developed that would have turned several visits, multiple long trips, and thousands of dollars in care for his veteran father into one simple visit. And now, we're expanding this vision with true, whole-person virtual healthcare solutions to reduce disparity of care globally.
Please welcome Marine Joel Bartholomew, founder and CEO of Global Med.
Thank you. Thank you all so very much for being here today. I want to thank VMLC because they do catch those people before they get thrown into the water. And for us as a veteran-owned company, where we have the fond privilege of serving our veterans and our active duty around the world, to be here and to be able to support those that are somewhat outside the system and need help. It's a joy every day, and I couldn't do this without my team. I'm just one tiny cog in a wonderful team of people, and I have a good share of my veteran family here from Global Med, and I just want to thank you all for what you do every day to allow this to happen and what we get to do again in a small way. So thank you all very much. Great event, great people. Thank you.
Joel, we're so grateful for Global Med's continued support of VMLC and our Arizona veterans needing assistance. Thank you. Our Community Service Award is named the General Tom Brown Community Heroes Award. Tom was a true hero and had a heart for our troops and our community. With that as my background, it's my personal pleasure to present our 2022 General Tom Browning Community Heroes Award to USAA for over a decade of outstanding support to our veterans, our community, and the VMLC. We're honored to have in attendance today Jack Swanson, a former Air Force pilot who served with USAA from 1988 to 2006. He was the leader that brought USAA to the Valley and was named head of the Phoenix Operations Center in 2000. Accepting on behalf of USAA is Patrick Fitzhugh, the Director of Regional Site Management.
I promise to keep this short. I'd be remiss if I didn't say happy birthday to the Marine Corps. I have a 6-year-old and 9-year-old at home, and we sleep peacefully because of the resolute steadfastness of the greatest fighting force in this world. So happy birthday, Marines. And I always felt weird when I was active duty prior Air Force guy trying to say Semper Fidelis to another Marine. And now I have a different understanding and appreciation of it when we say Semper Fidelis because of what it means as always faithful. I think about the USAA organization. We are just celebrating our centennial, 100 years this last June. And thank you. What I love about that story is how we started as a group of small Army officers who could not find the insurance, the service from the local community because they were deemed too risky. So what did they do? They solved the problem themselves. And what do we continue to see here is veterans and the community coming together to solve problems ourselves. We've been very proud to be part of the Navajo Solar Project, and I don't think that there is another demographic who is as well represented in the military. They serve more per capita by their demographic than any other demographic in the United States. So, I do want to say a quick thank you to Bill Ward if he's here, to Tom, to Bob for allowing us to be part of this beautiful project, and I'm excited to see where it continues to go. And if this is your first time, again, there was a lot of hands raised. Another Marine Corps term that I hear a lot is esprit de corps. And what does that mean? The definition is a feeling of pride, fellowship, a common loyalty shared by members of a particular group. So I want to say, on behalf of USAA to VMLC, thank you for bringing that esprit de corps into this community, and we are proud to be part of it. Have a great day. Thank you all.
As I mentioned earlier, the Veterans Medical Leadership Council partnered with Boulder Crest to create a program to help veterans learn how to thrive rather than simply survive their effects of post-traumatic stress. There's an organization called Songwriting with Soldiers that partners with Boulder Crest to write a song for each Boulder Crest class. Singer-songwriter Maya Sharp's songs have been recorded by Bonnie Raitt, the Chicks, which you may know as the Dixie Chicks, Trisha Yearwood, Cher, Art Garfunkel, and many others. She joins us today to share a song inspired by the first VMLC-sponsored Boulder Crest class, who are here with us tonight, or today, and also members of the class that just graduated. Please, and they already recognize themselves, but they're in the back room. Maya's gonna come perform the song that she wrote with the class last year. And for those of you that enjoy Maya's music, she's performing at Mesa tomorrow from 6 to 9 p.m. At the Little Turquoise Door, which is a piano shop. But right now, Maya Sharp's going to perform Tears Are Thicker Than Blood.
Hi, folks. I need to do this so you can hear me. I feel like a lucky civilian that I get to hang out with you all just because I write songs. I don't know how that worked out for me, but it worked out well, and thank you all. So this one is about how they had a really hard time sharing their feelings and opening up until they got to the PATH program and until they met each other. I think they're over there at table 49, right, guys? It's really nice to see you again. Day one, nobody was smiling under the weight of the fear. The pressure had been building all the way up to coming here. Everything released in me when we broke the levee of tears, and a burden was lifted after all these years. I was meant to meet these 7 brothers, bearing witness to each other, side by side, crawling through the mud. The darkness tried to break us apart, but lightning striking in the dark cracked us open, and we let it flood to find out tears are thicker than blood. Telling my stories, saying the things I never said before, letting go of the past, the pain and the shame of war, making a promise to myself not to live that life anymore. And if I stumble, well, I know who's gonna pick me up off the floor. I was meant to meet these 7 brothers, bearing witness to each other, side by side, crawling through the mud. The darkness tried to break us apart, but lightning striking in the dark cracked us open, and we let it flood to find out tears are thicker than blood. Looking through their eyes is a whole new clarity. As clear as that hawk over my head, I can hear and I can see hope, joy, and peace coming back to me. I am reborn, I am thriving, and F and A, I'm free. I was meant to meet these 7 brothers, bearing witness to each other, side by side, crawling through the mud. The darkness tried to break us apart, but lightning striking in the dark cracked us open, and we let it flood to find out tears are thicker than blood. It turns out tears are thicker than blood. Thank you, folks.
Another thank you for Maya, please. A beautiful song. I want to remind you, as you came in today, the beautiful ladies from the Cowgirl Historical Foundation is selling raffle tickets for Rita's Raffle to benefit VMLC programs. As many of you know, Rita Perini was a VMLC institution for over 20 years who founded that raffle that you saw as you walked in today. Because of her devotion to the veterans and the raffle, the VMLC is renaming it Rita's Raffle. I think it bears mentioning. Absolutely. It bears mentioning that the Cowgirl Historical Foundation is also a nonprofit which raises funds to support our veterans. So I want to thank all the ladies for what they do from the Cowgirls Historical Foundation. It's great. They will be making a final circle around the room in a moment, so make sure you buy the raffle tickets for these 5 terrific packages. Now, as you finish your lunch, we want to set the tone for the rest of our program. As a reminder of why we're gathering here today, please turn your attention to the screens for a special tribute set to the music of the 10 tenors to our brave men and women who have served and are serving our country.
Here's to the heroes, those few who dare, heading for glory, leaving a prayer. Here's to the heroes who change our lives. Thanks to the heroes, freedom survives.
We're going to take a brief break so you can enjoy your lunch. We'll be back with the program in just a few moments. If we could get you to return to your seats, we're going to continue with our program here in just a moment. So if you please return to your seats. All right, if you would please be seated, we're going to continue with our program now. I'm going to bring Tom Eiseminger from the VMLC back here to the front of in the room. So I hope you enjoy your lunch, and welcome back to Tom.
Joel, can I ask you to come and join me on stage, please? I want to bring the CEO of Global Med, Joel Bartholomew, back up on stage to present him an award for the 4th year in a row of being the presenting sponsor of this event.
All right, I want to continue with our program. So, as many of you personally know, many of you continue to serve, and by doing so, you have written a check made payable to the United States of America and its citizens, up to and including their lives to defend our freedom. It's always been an honor to be here at the VMLC to talk with so many people that are focused on what veterans endure. Some of you that know me and have been here to the VMLC know that my story in the media begins with the tragic loss of my brother in Iraq. My brother Tom was with the 3rd ACR, 3rd Armored Cav, and was killed in action on Memorial Day of 2003. And I began to share his story, believing I was going to tell this really heroic, unique story about the things he did in battle for the men he served with. And I will tell you that I was humbled when I heard the stories of so many other men and women that have done exactly the same thing and even greater in service to their brothers and sisters in arms and to their country and for their country. And I made a commitment then that I would tell the stories of veterans, but I also made a commitment that I would be there to try to help the veterans. And so this is the part of the program where I ask you to join me. On your table are cards where you can make a tax-deductible contribution. Volunteers will collect them. If you want to do something more immediate, there is a QR code in the program, and you can find it on your table setting as well. You can pull out your camera and you can donate. We thank you for being here, but I wanted to take just a moment to do that and ask you to partner with us, because what we do and when we thank veterans, I know it's heartfelt, but as you see with the work that VMLC does, there's a lot of work to be done, and it costs money, and it takes time, and they're giving the time, but we need you to help give the money. So in advance, I want to say to you, thank you for your kindness, thank you for your generosity, and I thank you for being here to support the men and women that have served us for so long. Now, each year, the VMLC selects individuals from the community who have proudly served our country in conflicts dating back to World War II. We are proud to introduce this year's honorees. So if you will again turn your attention to the screens for the short videos of each of our honorees. The videos are produced and inspired by Inspired Media and Carrie Pena, who is one of our first MCs of this very program.
My name is Lee Huff. I work for a United States Congressman here in Arizona doing veterans issues in the capacity of Deputy District Director. 16 years ago, I had a major stroke. The stroke, lost my job, lost my house, lost our vehicles, and didn't think I could provide for my family anymore. And I really thought, what good am I? Within a year's time, I ended up trying to commit suicide and didn't get the help that I needed at the time. A year later, I was in that same dark spot and just struggling, and again, I found myself in the process of suicide. I finally ended up getting good care at a mental health facility, and ended up running across one of the counselors who explained that we all go through life with these blinders on, and generally we see everything that's just great out there. But veterans with PTSD, people that have brain problems, like I did, those blinders start coming in. And as those blinders get to this point, the next thing we know, we might be in that act of suicide. And once I realized that, I realized I had to keep those blinders like this, so I wasn't in that dark place. And ever since I finally got the help that I needed, I have never gone back into those dark places. But it was all worth it. Everything that I went through, and I went to hell and back, was all worth it just to be able to help our veterans today. I wouldn't take away that part of my life for anything, because it's helped me to make a difference. And so now, as I sit in this beautiful office that I have, working for my favorite congressman, making a difference in the lives of veterans and other people, I never dreamed at the time that I would be in this position. And it's been very rewarding, and to look back where I was and to realize where I am now, to hold the grandchildren. I have 9 grandchildren, hold them on my knees, play with them, laugh with them. And I often think, I almost missed this. I almost missed the joy of rubbing shoulders with veterans. I've made some good friends. These veterans that I help, whether it be help get their benefits or help with their depression, PTSD, suicide ideations, they've become very close friends. These veterans actually signed up. These veterans were willing to give their lives for our country. And the least I can do is serve them. These veterans, sometimes they have to fight for their benefits. They already fought their war. They shouldn't have to continue to fight. And so I take it upon myself to do that fight for them now, so they don't have to.
Hello, my name is Sean Stoddard, and I served in the United States Army. I've served in 4 deployments, mobilizations, Cuba, Iraq, Afghanistan, and to Fort Bliss. On August 11th of 2020, while serving as the first sergeant as an Army reservist and serving in the police department, Mesa Police Department, I was hit by a distracted driver on the freeway. I was in a coma for about a week or whatever, and they had to cut up the door off the patrol car. So my rehabilitation has been learning how to walk. I was in a wheelchair for a while, learning how to talk, learning how to feed myself. So basically, it's a new life, and I'm endeavoring to get better. I have 2 choices. I can be angry, disappointed, sad, frustrated, and everything that's happened, or I can have gratitude and feel joy and peace and serve. And there's joy in service. There's joy in laboring to make the world a better place and focusing on other people's challenges rather than the challenges that I'm struggling with, which is I still need to be aware of and work around, but focusing on other people's challenges, that brings joy and strength and peace and hope. Well, I joined the military after 9/11. That was an impactful time for me and for everyone. And so it's meaningful to me, and both my grandparents served in the Army. I think it's important to understand that, that we love our country, that our country is special, it's unique, it gives us freedoms and opportunities, and as we know and learn about democracy and to be what the United States of America is, to be able to defend it is an honor. To be able to go and serve in the world and try to bring democracy and hope and freedom to folks, that's important. And so I think it's something special that I've had the honor and opportunity to do. I'm grateful for my country. I'm grateful for the opportunity I've had to serve. It's an honor to be with my brothers and sisters that have served in various conflicts and throughout different generations in the military, supporting their country, loving their country. I'm honored to be able to be with my military family. And that's the way I would look at them, as family. I'm grateful to serve with them. So I feel honored to be part of their family, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to continue that journey.
My name is Kayami Shagai. I am a veteran of the United States Navy, Petty Officer, 2nd class. I come from a very long line of military family members. It started off with my grandfather, and he was Navy, so I was actually the first to follow in his footsteps and go Navy. And so with all of that, my children definitely know our military history. As soon as I got out of boot camp, 9/11 kind of hit, so we were the first ship that was deployed right after that. So that was the huge surprise and the scare moment, being 19 years old, going about it like that. And then going through combat with my husband, actually, well, future husband, that kind of made it a little bit better. I actually ended up with a fantastic division. Even though I am a woman, it was one of those man up moments. It was just, this is the jump first and throw up later kind of concept. And so that's the mindset that I just moved forward with. Then it was just a matter of trying to really adjust to military life, because there's really no adjustment when you're fresh right into war. After that is when we were able to adjust. We were deployed in the Persian Gulf, which we were located right outside of Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan. Basically, our duties were to prevent and make sure that in any type of combat situation that we were the first on the scene. So we were the ones who would make sure that we would minimize the damage that had already occurred, and then also prevent any future damage from being able to happen. I would definitely want to be able to thank, as much as I possibly can, the Veteran Medical Leadership Council. I just don't know exactly how to put it into words how amazingly important it is when other people recognize who you are and what you've done to be honored. I'm just gonna keep using it. It is truly a blessing. I feel blessed.
My name is Wayne Snyder. I served in Vietnam, and I'm a United States Marine. We landed in Da Nang, got off the plane, and within 10 minutes we were shot at. We got issued equipment right then, sent out to different units, and I was stationed up at An Hoa, which is north, for a little short of the DMZ, and worked out of there. And then about June, we transferred down to LZ Baldy, which is a combat base, and finished out the tour there. But we were lucky to make it out, because we were on the plane ready to take off and rolling down the runway, and the pilot had his mic on, and all of a sudden you hear, "Oh my God, rockets." He hit full throttle. Almost stood the plane straight on its tail. The rockets hit the fuel depot right there. When we got to Okinawa, the whole right side of the plane, the outer windows were cracked and blistered, and the paint was gone. That's how close it was. It's very important now to be recognized by civilians for being in the military. I've had a lot of people come up and thank me for my service. I went into a store one day, and I've got Marine Corps stickers on my car, and this kid about 19 or 20 pulled up beside the vehicle and on a motorcycle, walked inside. Is that your vehicle out there? I said, yeah. And he walked over and says, thank you for your service, and shook my hand. War's not for the timid. It just, it tends to screw you up. And I fought him for PTSD for years. Finally, I told the one psychiatrist, how many dead people and body parts and everything do you have to see before you get PTSD? I got a letter from the VA that I was declared in PTSD that day. The VMLC is important because they do help needy veterans. They put the word out of what we've done, and they try and make us realize that what we did was right and not against the country. Even though we did not want to be there, we did so that people could be safe at home. Whether they think we did a good job or not, it doesn't make any difference anymore. We did what we had to do. And given the chance, I would join the Marine Corps again right now.
Hi, my name is Arthur Augusta. I'm a Korean War veteran in the U.S. Navy. I volunteered on my own to join this service just as soon as I graduated from high school, and I was 17 at the time, but they wouldn't take me until I was 18. Well, some people don't realize just how it leaves a person when they're 18 years old to leave their family. And, you know, I come from a small town in upstate New York, Amsterdam, New York, and never was on a plane, never was on a train. And to be away from your parents at that young age, it's traumatic. Well, I didn't realize at the time, but my father was not in my life a lot at that time. And I had a friend that we played football together, and his father said to me, you need to do what my son is going to do. He's going to join the Navy because they are drafting 18-year-olds, and you don't want to go in the armory. You don't want to go in the infantry. Your chances are of surviving is better off in the Navy. And if you sign up, and so I said, well, how long? And they said, 8 years. I said, 8 years? And they said, well, 4 years active, 4 years inactive. Fortunately, the Korean War ended in 1953. Normally, I only wear my shirt when we have our meetings once a month. And then we all gather at a restaurant, and people will come over and thank me for my service.
Tell me about the jacket.
the jacket is really good because it's got decals on it. And I have had young children come up at Costco and want to look at them.
And that's special.
Yeah, it is special to me, yeah. I can honestly say that people are very patriotic.
Hi, I'm Dale Glendenning. I served World War II. I'm so proud to be a part of that successful operation. We're living today because of sacrifices, and I am eternally grateful for those who shared it with me for your benefits. During my time in service, like all others, I was concerned about my safety and the direction that our nation was taking. When I was in military service, I did my best to learn everything that I could related to the assignment that I was to receive. That has been a part of my life, all of my life. I don't think any person lives to themselves or dies to themselves. I was so happy when General MacArthur on the USS Missouri was able to sign against Hirohito of Japan. It was a rewarding time. I was proud of Eisenhower at that time. I was truly a good soldier, wanting to do the best I could, being responsible for 9 men that flew in that B-29 and a multi-million-dollar aircraft was a tremendous challenge for a man in his early 20s. I had 2 men assigned to me to help me in the maintenance of that craft. You know, on my 100th birthday, my daughter said, "You're going to be surprised." And all of a sudden, down the street come a bunch of vehicles, and then he saluted me, and he's dead. All the others saluted me. I never knew what it's like to be so honored.
I'm not crying, you're crying. On behalf of the Veterans Medical Leadership Council, we'd like to present each of you with a memento in honor of your dedication and service to our country. So we're going to ask each of our honorees to please stand and come to the stage when your name is read. Please remain on stage for a photograph, and then at the end, a group photo. We'll start first with Patriotic Heroes Award, civilian veteran constituent Lee Huff with the Arizona Representative Andy Biggs' office. Iraqi freedom veteran Sean Studdard, who served in the U.S. Army National Guard. Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, Kayamisha Guy, who served in the U.S. Navy. Vietnam War veteran Wayne Snyder, who served in the United States Marine Corps. Korean War veteran Art Augusta, who served in the U.S. Navy. And World War II veteran Dale Glendenning, who served in the U.S. Army. How about a round of applause for our honorees? right, please be seated. One more picture, and then we'll introduce our keynote speaker. All right, perfect. Thank you again. I now have the honor and the privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, retired Army Major General Patrick Henry Brady. General Brady was born in South Dakota, grew up in Seattle, where he attended Seattle University. At that time, he was participating in a compulsory ROTC program and was relieved of his duties. At the time, he realized that the likelihood that he would be drafted was there. At the time there was a war, and he relented in the ROTC program he re-entered, I should say, the program in order to serve as a military officer. He graduated from the program. He was commissioned a second lieutenant in the Army Medical Service Corps in 1959. He served in uniform from 1959 to 1993, conducting various assignments, and after attending flight school in 1963, was assigned aviation duties, flying medical evacuation aircraft. General Brady served 2 tours in Vietnam, first with the 57th Medical Detachment, the original dust-off unit, commanded by Major Charles Kelly. It was during his second tour with the 54th Medical Detachment that Brady received the Medal of Honor. The general pioneered night flight techniques before night vision equipment was available. He would attempt missions others refused and practiced combat dust-off approaches to landing zones in all weather, combat conditions, and at night. Everyone, please welcome Major General Patrick Henry Brady.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Damn, I love to hear what a fine fellow I am. I wish my wife could be here to hear what a fine fellow I am. More than that, I wish my wife's mother could be here to hear. All the people that you recognized, there's one, and I don't know if he's still here, Dave McIntyre, Tri-West. This is a great American patriot. He's done so much for veterans, and we really appreciate this guy. And the other thing is, you're extraordinarily lucky to have in this room the 2 greatest helicopter pilots that ever lived. Number 2 is right out there. Now, be easy on him. Being number 2 is rough on a guy. He flew a route recon for the 3 Wise Men. He's been around a long, long time. And if you saw the movie We Were Soldiers Once and Young, he ain't young anymore, but he was depicted in that movie. So, second greatest helicopter pilot, and he's with us today. Not as long as it's not the middle finger, Bruce. Now I'm going to tell you some war stories here. You all know the difference between a war story and a fairy tale. Fairy tale begins once upon a time. War story begins with this is no shit. But I'm also aware of the time. This has been a kind of a long deal here. And so I'm reminded of Henry VIII's words to his fifth wife, "I won't keep you long." I've been asked to talk to you about American exceptionalism and why we all should be proud to be an American. And that's what it means to be an American. This very topic was central to President Reagan's farewell address. He, in fact, used those very words, what it means to be an American. And he pleaded with all of us to instill the answer in our children. So I hope you will all do the same. We may be failing in this regard. For the first time in 18 years, Gallup found that less than a majority of our youth are extremely proud to be Americans. A significant percentage would not sacrifice for America. And 1 in 7 of our young people think that we started World War II by bombing Japan. Only 1 in 6 Americans can pass a basic test in American history, and much of what they're learning is negative. I was recently with some recruiters, and they told me, and I heard this, but I could hardly believe it, but they told me that 75% of our young people cannot meet the basic standards to be an American soldier. That is really scary. Now, I could go on, but we clearly have a crisis in our educational system. Too many of our youth do not know or appreciate what it means to be an American. What it means to be an American, of course, begs the question, are we exceptional? Former President Obama said he believes in American exceptionalism just as the British believe in British exceptionalism. The Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism. Now, he might have used a better example than the Greeks, but his point is clear. Exceptionalism is subjective. My home country is no better than any other. Exceptionalism is based on sentiment and can't objectively be measured. I disagree. American exceptionalism is defined in the Encyclopedia of American Foreign Policy as a term used to describe the belief that the United States is an extraordinary nation, plays a special role in human history, a nation that is not only unique, but superior. I do believe we meet that definition, that we are exceptional. I believe that we are hardwired differently than other people. I believe we have played a special role in history, and that we are unique and superior as a nation, and that we are a gift to the world. And that's not just sentiment. I believe it is supported by facts. In fact, I believe that we are beyond exceptional. We are indeed the last best hope of mankind. Does anybody believe that the Brits or the Greeks or any other nation is the last best hope of mankind? America is exceptional because we are a uniquely courageous people, a uniquely compassionate people, and a uniquely competitive people. And we have been a good people. Alex de Tocqueville in the 19th century was the first to call American exceptional. He also said America is great because America is good. Goodness is the indispensable element of our exceptionalism and ties the other three together. A courageous people. Americans agree with William James on courage. He writes, "Evident though the shortcomings of a man may be, if he is ready to give up his life for a cause, we forgive him everything. However inferior he may be to us in other respects, if we cling to life while he throws it away like a flower, we bow to his superiority." Americans admire courage, and that they believe that courage in all parts of our humanity, mental, physical, and spiritual, is the key to success in life. And we find this when we talk to the young people across the country. They know that life is not fair, that we are not all born equal, certainly not in terms of ability, certainly not in terms of opportunity. But Americans realize that in the only way that really matters, we are all born equal, and that is in terms of courage. You can have all the courage we want, you can't use it up. Americans know that they can go as far as their courage will take them, and that God will give them all the courage we need. Now, once we are locked into courage as the key to success in life, we understand that mediocrity and failure are the result of choice, not chance. Courage belies victimhood. Now, American courage, I believe, is also the source of most of the freedoms in the world. The courage of our leaders, our people, and most of all, our nobility, and that's our military. I've often asked what the source of courage is. For me, the short answer is faith. I've never known anyone with enduring, repetitive courage who was not also a person of faith. It is well known that we are a nation of faith, and that explains the great courage of our people. It also explains their goodness. Fear, of course, is the antithesis of courage. Fear is an emotion. Courage is a decision. And a well-lived life is a life of good decisions. Fear is actually a form of slavery, and I believe we've seen that during this COVID thing. Now, as we know, a person of faith, of courage, dies only once. Cowards die many times before their death. Courage, I tell the story about a football player that kind of explains it. Courage, of course, is fear that said its prayers. But this football player was going to a game many years ago when they actually traveled by train. Along the way, he got word that his father was ill, so he stopped. He went back to take care of his father. His father died. And after the funeral, he joined the team at the game. Now, he was not a very good player. He begged the coaches to put him in the game. Out of respect for his father, the coaches put him in. They said, we'll get him out before he does any damage. Well, he played sensationally. In fact, he scored the winning touchdown. They were delighted. Said, young man, how did you do that? And he said, my father was blind all my life, and this was the first time he could see me play. That young man had the faith that his father was there and could see him, and that gave him the courage to do what he did. Now, physical courage is not the toughest courage. The toughest courage is moral courage. Physical courage can win a battle or a ball game, but moral courage can change the world. And it's not a guy thing. In my life, it's been the women who've exhibited the greatest moral courage. You know, I can remember talking to my wife about going out to speak to a group of civilians. You know, civilians are weird. And I said, dear, they may boo me. She says, don't worry, dear, they can't boo and yawn at the same time. But think of the courage of women. Where were the men at the crucifixion? They know the 2 o'clock in the morning fear that Napoleon talked about. Childbearing. What soldier has gone through that? And the taking care of our children, the most helpless in our society. And think about the Olympics. That horizontal wooden beam. Have you ever seen a man on that thing? Now, having said those nice things about them, they can also be a pain in the ass. I traveled a lot. My wife was on my case. Oh, I come home. Damn. So I got a little weary of it, and I said, dear, for God's sakes, get a hobby. And so I came back after a trip, and did you get a hobby? Yes, I got a hobby. Okay, dear, what is it? She said, I'm going to raise chickens. I said, really? Show me. Now, I'm a country boy. She's a city girl. I go out there, and sure enough, there's 2 roosters and 1 hen. And I says, "Dear, I think you missed the point." She said, "No, you missed the point. One of those roosters travels a lot." Our courage as a people, I think, produces many heroes, but it's important to distinguish the difference between a hero and a celebrity. It's vital for our children. A celebrity may be someone we want to meet. A hero is someone we should want to be like. And I'll give you an example of a true hero, a hero of mine. His name was Pappy Coleman. He was a medic in Vietnam. I don't know why the hell they call him Pappy. He's probably 23 years old, but he was in charge of all the medics. And he, together with those other medics, in a 9.5-month period, rescued over 21,000 patients. 3 helicopters, 40-man detachment, 26 Purple Hearts, 21,000 patients. Exceptional medic. One mission, he jumps out of the helicopter to go into the field to get the wounded. Boom, shot in the chicken plate, gets up, shot again in the chicken plate, gets up and goes and gets the patients. Another mission, he jumps out of the helicopter to go get the patients, takes a bullet right through the lips. They get on him, "Pappy, Pappy, are you okay?" He says, "Not to worry, I just kissed the bullet that had my name on it." True story. He's in the Aviation Hall of Fame. Another mission, he was with me in a minefield, and nobody moves in a minefield. And we managed to get that thing on the ground without setting off a mine. I said, "Go get him." Pappy and the crew chief jumped out into the minefield and started taking the patients to my helicopter. Things were going good, and then they stepped on a damn mine. It blew them up in the air. I thought they were going to go through the blades. They landed. Pappy's pants were on fire, put the fire out, went back into the minefield to get the wounded. Took them all to the hospital. Now, why is he a hero? He's got 18 years. He's got 3 Silver Stars. He's got 3 Purple Hearts. Probably helped personally rescue over 3,500 people. No telling how many other medals he's got. And his family called, 18 years, and said, "Pappy, you got to come home to take care of the family." He gave up his career, he gave up his pension, and he went home to take care of his family. Why is he a hero? He's a hero because he was a good person. We ought not to ever recognize anyone as a hero unless they are also a good person. Now, I never forget a call I got one night. It was the night that my beloved San Antonio Spurs had kicked Miami's ass in the final game of the NBA championship, and Pappy's wife is on the phone. She says, "Pappy's dying." I said, "Rose, I know he's dying. We're all dying. It's going to take a while." And she said, "No, really." And so, "Well, what do you want?" She says, "Pappy wants you to bury him." And I says, "I really didn't think he was dying." So I said, "Rose, I promise you I will do it." Well, he died a couple hours after that call, and he wanted to be buried in Turkey Creek, Kentucky. They don't speak English in Turkey Creek, Kentucky. So I got to coordinate this thing with those weirdos there, the Hatfield-McCoy crowd. And he wanted to be buried in his grandson's uniform. And I guess the morticians had a trick getting that on him. But we got that great soldier buried exactly the way he wanted to be buried. So the difference is you can't be a hero and not be a good person. Celebrities are not always good people. Goodness is essential to the hero as it is to American exceptionalism. I think it was a confluence of Christianity and a desire for freedom that brought us the Declaration and the Constitution, second only to the Bible as far as the great documents in history. It's the American Constitution more so than any other governing document which unleashes the fruits of courage in what we call free enterprise based on individual initiative, unfettered by outside interference, which has produced unsurpassed prosperity. Christianity taught that there is no liberty without morality. There are no little people. Each person's dignity was the equal of the booted and spurred who had saddled much of the world. The God of Christianity was the source of our rights, not the robed and perfumed elite who declared and denied rights on a whim. What are the fruits of courage? What do we find in courageous people? I think their capacity for sacrifice stands out, which brings us to compassion, a uniquely compassionate people, the fruits of sacrifice. Compassion is not an amorphous sentiment. It is a form of sacrifice, which demands both love and action. Much of the sacrifice of our military, of the American people, is especial. No bottom line, no material gain, no quid pro quo, nothing really in it for them. All it does is increase their capacity for more sacrifice. And it also increases their capacity for fulfillment, for responsibility, indeed for happiness itself. The greater your capacity for sacrifice, the greater will be your capacity for responsibility, for leadership, and I believe it's the source of happiness. Sacrifice, I mentioned, is best defined as love in action. You take that great emotion, you do something with it. We know that the more we lift weights, use our muscles, the stronger we become. Same is true of sacrifice. The more we sacrifice, the greater our capacity becomes for it. For more sacrifice, I think it's like love lifting when you develop a capacity for sacrifice. And this is the kind of sacrifice we see in our soldiers, our parents, our teachers, our coaches, and our charity to the world. I think that a person's capacity for sacrifice may be the ultimate measure of genuine human goodness. We are measurably the most compassionate people in the world. Americans give billions annually to charity at home and across the world. No individuals in the world give more than Americans. We also adopt more children than the rest of the world combined. And who is at the forefront of every natural disaster on the planet? Who gives more for the medical needs and poverty of our people? And we see a lot of that here tonight by these organizations. Now, a word of caution on compassion. I believe there's a danger in the promotion of unwarranted self-esteem, the shielding of children from the fruits of failure. Failure is a healthy thing. It's a necessary stepping stone to success. There's no such thing as failure unless we fail to learn from it. When we subsidize failure and focus on security rather than opportunity, when we are more concerned that our programs are compassionate than that they are fair, we guarantee failure. A false compassion may also be a shade for the roots of socialism. A competitive people, an exceptionally competitive people. I think more so than any other nation, we have been a meritocracy, and that fosters and is sold by competition. We are a people who believe that we should be free to pursue happiness, but we also find happiness in the pursuit, in pure, unfettered, joyful competition. Winners are courageous and competitive. We are free to compete as equals in the marketplace of ideas and industry. Success in America has been a function of ability and hard work more so than any other factor. Now, despite the demonization of the rich by some, my experience with the wealthy in America is that they are smarter than I am, They work harder than I do, they're more competitive than I am, and only sometimes are they luckier than I am. And most of the wealthy I know are very generous, and for good reason. Many of them know what it's like to be poor. And it's a fact that many of the most successful people failed more than those who are considered failures. They kept competing, the failures quit. I believe that most failures result from a lack of courage, an unwillingness to compete. But there are some who feel they deserve more of the American dream than they, by hard work, have earned. They want equal outcomes for unequal input. Many of these people want a handout. And the great danger to America is that politicians have learned that they can bribe these people. Tragically, government bribing leads to addiction. It forms a relationship between our people and our government that's similar to that between a drug addict and a drug dealer and a drug addict. Controlling government is like a dope peddler. They seek to grow the addiction of the people, to build their dependence, which grows the power, which I think is the ultimate aphrodisiac of evil, the power of government. And some of the bribing takes the form of quotas, which by one person benefits because of race, gender, etc., not just ability or hard work, over another better qualified person because of their race, gender, etc., or whatever. It's not only unfair, it's insane. Government bribery, quotas, and other non-merit-based programs lead to socialism or worse, will destroy our competitiveness and eventually destroy America. Finally, I believe that the key to our success, our future, is a strong belief in our exceptionalism. We cannot survive unless we grow patriots, young people who believe in our exceptionalism, who prove that they love America, not just by saying it, but by supporting and defending America. Patriotism is not the last refuge of a scoundrel. It's the last hope of a free people. We must grow patriots in our youth. The highest form of patriotism is service to our youth, to their education, to the fostering of their patriotism, instilling in them that they are part of an exceptional nation, and it's their duty to keep it that way. And let me give you an example of a patriot. His name was Webster Anderson. He was a great, powerful black artillery sergeant. He was on a mountaintop in Vietnam during a tropical storm. In the initial attack, the communists pretty much took off both his legs. Webster kept fighting. The next attack, they threw a hand grenade into his position. Webster caught the grenade, and when he was throwing it clear of his men, pretty much took off his arm. He kept fighting. I flew in that night, and I picked up what was left of Webster and his wounded soldiers, and I took them to the hospital. Amazingly, the physicians were able to save his life, but they didn't save 2 legs and 1 arm. But that action earned Webster the Medal of Honor. He thought I saved his life. Physicians saved his life. He and I became very close, and we would go across America talking to young people in the classrooms as the Medal of Honor Society does in its character development program. And we were in a classroom over Memorial Weekend, I think it was, in Oklahoma, talking to some kids, and Webster was more plastic than he was flesh, but he insisted on standing up before those kids, and so we would prop him up there and talk to the kids. And one young man raised his hand and said, "Mr. Anderson, knowing what you know now, that it would cost you 2 legs and 1 arm, would you do it again?" And Webster raised his one good arm, and he says, "Young man, I've only got 1 arm left, but my country can have it any time they want." Now, those young people looking at that great soldier, I think, learned for the first time, many of them, what true patriotism was all about. Now, in some faiths, my faith, there's a doctrine on grace. And you preachers out there, check me on this. It teaches that there's a treasure chest filled with grace. and it was fulfilled by the sacrifices of Jesus and the saints. It's available to all of us as we struggle to do what's right. We can all draw from that chest of grace through no particular merits of our own, but simply because of God's love for us. Our freedom is like grace, a treasure chest. It was filled by the sacrifices of our great heroes and patriots. And we all draw from that chest of freedom, often through no particular merits of our own, but simply because of their love for us. The chest of grace is inexhaustible because it comes from God, not so the chest of freedom. It must continuously be replenished by the sacrifices of patriots and others, people such as Webster Anderson. So what does it mean to be an American? The answer is that it means to be part of an exceptional people, a people who have been a blessing to the world and will continue to be as long as we remain a good people, a people of courage, of compassion, with a government dedicated to the immutable truths of our Constitution, the Constitution of our founders, a government that allows free and unfettered competition in a market governed by merit, individual initiative, and hard work. If we fail, it will be because we commit suicide. We lose our courage, we become cowards. We lose our compassion, we become greedy and self-centered. And we lose our competitiveness, and we become socialists. And we lose all these only if we lose our goodness. I do not believe, nor does any veteran believe, we did America a favor by our service and sacrifice. We believe that God did us a favor by allowing us to be born in this most exceptional nation. God bless you.
On behalf of the VMLC, we'd like to offer you this gift. It's got the dust-off insignia on top.
Oh, nice.
And we just want to say thank you for being our speaker this year.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I'm selling the book about dust-off. Nobody's mentioned that. I can't understand why it hasn't won a Nobel Prize. Oh, you're going to do that?
You're doing my job. I've got it on the page. That was great. Oh, look at this. What's the next thing on the page, sir? General Brady wrote a book. It's entitled Dead Men Flying. If you would like to read more about his service and courage, we're fortunate that after this event, the book is available for purchase in the lobby. As we near the conclusion of this program, it's my pleasure to ask April Manchester Miller to please come back up to the stage and sing God Bless the USA.
But before I do, how about a hand for Mike Broomhead? Award-winning talk show host, KTAR, morning show. Did you know he's famous? He's kind of a big deal. Wrote a book and everything. Good friend of mine. I just want to set the record straight for next time, though, Mr. Broomhead. You may have been doing this wonderful event for 10 years. I've been doing it for 20. Mike's my good friend. We're 5 years apart. I'm older, so as big sister, you get to hold my gum. Yeah, that's right. Something you may not know about Mike. He's an ardent patriot. He's a great American, and he is a lifelong supporter of veterans. That man has the biggest heart for all of you out there. Give him a big hand. But this isn't about him, and it's not about me, it's about you. So sing along, because you know you're going to. You're going to see each other next year, or maybe you won't. So let's start the music and see what happens.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my family by my side. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Y'all look good. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Oh my gosh. I've never been speechless. That was something. Thank you, April. The community support for the VMLC is the key to helping the men and women who have served our country so valiantly. Please remember the donation cards on your table or the QR code in the program. And it's also on the screens, I believe. We send a special thank you to all of you for joining us today, and I'd also like to thank the Arizona Biltmore staff for the great job they did serving all of us today. For today's raffle prizes, if you will turn to the screens once again, they've noted the winning numbers, so please take a look at your lucky ticket. You can pick up your prize at the raffle table at the back of the room. As mentioned, General Brady's book entitled Dead Men Flying is available in the lobby for purchase. And don't forget the Veterans Day Parade is tomorrow, November 11th. And lastly, the person at each table whose birthday is the closest to General Brady's, which is October 1st, is welcome to take the centerpieces from the table. I want to thank you again for supporting the VMLC and attending today's luncheon. Thank you so much.